Well, hello, hi, it is me, it is I. Small time video, Khadi and easy re internet and akastraha and bakalau yala. Couple of things. You guys don't love Rakhadi. You do not love your Rakhadi on the internet. You in actual fact do not. How come not one of you was like Rakhadi? Don't walk. Get on your Casta Simenya over there on widows because I think those girls are right. Or maybe you guys don't know me. That's not true. That is not true because the comments would suggest you guys are actually very attentive and I love it. But widows, unfortunately, I'm not going to do, scene by scene and this by this. I'm just going to come at you all with what I remember. I started watching it yesterday and I finished watching today. I'm binging its 10 episode on Showmax, Widows Unveiled. And whew, hi. Maybe I'll do it in two parts because I'm giving an overview of just you. The women have lived lives. The women have stories. Oh, it's heavy. It's heavy, but in a couple of things. Just on the casting, on the how these women showed it, they need to be proud of themselves. Each and every one of them needs to be proud of how they showed up. Guys, I'm so glad they don't have Ayanda Ngani on the show because her fakery would have fucked up the entire thing. She's too fake, that woman. I can't deal with her. But the cast is amazing. People are more vulnerable. I think I also like the age mixing, even though it like gave us a problem in the end. It was necessary, right? The premise of it all is that these are women who've all lost somebody and they're grieving. We have they all lost a prominent somebody, right? In the music industry, in the entertainment industry as a whole, so acting and stuff like that, in politics, in the soccer fraternities, like they've lost somebody who was somebody. All of these women had married the guy. They married the guy, the guy. I've always hated the guy. I have never. One of my other things that I have to ask whys and whys and whys. And one of the things I always ask myself is that my scoffing, if you would like, at a certain type of guy, is it really somebody once told me that an open door like that fucks with them. So let me close. Sorry about that. I just recorded a video and I didn't notice that it was open the entire time. But I always wonder if it is mostly a protection of myself because the guy typically doesn't go for a girl like me. And maybe as a protective mechanism, I was always like, oh, I'm not into that. But honestly, I find them rather really repulsive and I just want to puke. Like I've had friends in my life who like the guy. And what do I mean by that, right? The guy who makes it, the guy that can perform toxic insert the best, right? Toxic masculinity, toxic manhood, like whatever you insert there. The guy that can do that performance better than everybody else, who can do the peacock thing better than everybody, the guy who comes from means, the guy who acquires means. And I'm not necessarily saying I want to be with a person who isn't done okay for themselves or whatever, but there's a certain, even charisma. Like I've never liked a charismatic man, a man who's the center of attention, a man who likes to hear himself talk. Like I find those people extremely one-dimensional, energy vampires, disgusting, often lack self-control because part of that charisma is being an attention whore. Like they need to have all the women of the world. I have never been drawn to this kind of man. I'm telling you, ever. Like I don't get it. In fact, I've been around this kind of man a lot because of some of the friends that I've kept, and I'm disgusted. I want to call the night short and go to bed. I can't fucking do it. I think you get it. But all these women in here have a prominent somebody. The person who seems to be putting together the group is one Lerato Singh ID. I think that's her surname, who's the late WHP. WHP is the soundtrack to my teenhood. He is the loudest voice of my teenhood. When I think teenhood and the things come up, right? The smells. So for me, that would be coffee in the morning. That would be certain hair products because I'm doing my afro. That would be the smell of armpits. That would, like, I don't know. That would be, but I have smells that I associate with stuff. But then their voices, their sounds, and there's cultural moments. Hype magazine, Double HP. Like, he is very high up on, like, if you were to, like, say teenhood, give me 10 things. He's easily in the top 5, and not for play. Do you understand? Just talent called, and it is, I think, the parasocial bond we develop. He's one of those for me that when it was said that this man is no more, and the scattering of what might be, which Lerato somewhat confirms on this show, it broke me. It broke me because I was like, how much we hold on as African people to this thing that does us so much harm, which is white patriarchy, and how we want to continue to perpetuate that it is inherently African. I've just said this in another video. It gets in the way of us seeking the mental help that we want. And this, I'm not putting it, if you're new here, generally when I talk about something, I will broaden the conversation. I'm not saying he wasn't seeking help for anything that he may have been dealing with. But when I heard of the rumors, it opened up that conversation of, like, men in society as a whole are having to contend with the inability to perform masculinity in its very rigid form. And they aren't exploring other avenues. And it's leading to a lot of mental really an epidemic, if you would like, but there's a mental crisis that's happening within manhood, and they don't have the tools to work through it. But when the feminists are screaming from the rooftops, hey, you might want to let go of the rigidity of how you define manhood. It's harming you. It's actually incorrect. They don't want to listen because a woman is saying it. A lot is happening with Black men in particular around mental health, that when it was announced that he had passed, and it was alleged that it broke me, not just for him, but for the experience of, like, the sons that I see my friends raising, and what happens to them when, like, the broader society gets their hands on them and teaches them these toxic things and these very rigid ways of expressing themselves and rigid ways of celebrating themselves. What happens when they can't live up? What happens when it's too uncomfortable and they don't fit into these very square boxes? Fucked with me. I remember crying. I was with one of my friends. He reminds me very often that I really didn't know that you fucked with Jabba like that. I'm like, I fucked with Jabba like that, bitch. Okay. Clench your face, write your list off. Everybody you know is got in your face off. Okay. But anyway, oh wow. I think this is gonna be a 3-part video. I'm 8 minutes in and I've just made one point. I think I'm long-winded, like Mamfundi. Like, I'm very long-winded. But anyway, Lerato has put this group together. We have another Lerato, an older lady by the name of Lerato, and she was married to a political figure, a struggle icon, if you would like, an MK veteran. What's his name? I forget. I need to get my other phone so I can remember their significant. You know what? I actually like this moment. I remember Lerato. I don't remember who the fuck she was married to. I like this. Hi, Lerato. Because she made that much of an impact to me. I took to her. She's lied to me. I was disappointed, but we'll talk about that at the end. I think people are allowed to be disappointing, and we can still say we like them and that we enjoyed them, and we don't have to say I liked her, but she did this, so I'm throwing them away, because who's without fault, really? But yeah, I remember you, ma'am. You know, it's significant that I'm saying it because she's one of the women who spoke about disappearing into her husband's identity. And this man did not treat her well. This man drove a wedge between her and her son. I feel like she's having a rebirth unlike anybody else on the show. Also, because she got married so young, she says. I actually feel like she's gone back to whatever age she um, took on his identity as her own. It feels to me, and not in an immature way, but in a I'm gonna go get a piercing. And she did it. I'm gonna take my ring off. I am not gonna be defined through this man. I'm not gonna fight for every little thing that was yours because that keeps me tethered to this part of you that I didn't want. They can fucking have that, your fucking side chicks, if that's what they want. I'm not doing a back and forth with these people. She's at the most growth and the most release. Like the death of a husband, in as much as yes, there's love there's grief, there's a myriad of other things, but there's also an opportunity for her to be her, and not even her as Mamang's widow, or her as the mother to her. She had a ceremony where she took off her ring, and she spoke about this in great length. Um, in that episode, and she kept saying, nobody's gonna keep telling me what to do. I'm gonna be me. I love that she didn't even say I'm gonna be so and so's mom. I love it. I was like, yes, girl. Yeah, Diddy bitch. That's it. And that's enough. Like my intrinsic worth starts and is enough with me just being me. I don't need to explain that I've birthed whomever, or I was married to whomever, or I no, bitch. It's just me. I love it. Oh, I spazzed at these bitches. Like, you guys, it's such a good show. We have Mendoza's widow over there. I remember seeing their wedding on Top Billing when I was much younger, like eons and eons ago. The legend. Okay. Talk about that. I'm like, wow, guys, like, imagine, like, babe, when this guy tried to play your man. You built that. And oh my God, Lerato, when she's taking off her own ring, I think her husband's nickname is it Gepi? Singadi. Her surname is Singadi. Her marital surname and stuff. And we have Mpo on there who goes by Mpo Chabalala, and she very much wants you to remember that, because these women are, I like the storytelling they did of us learning all kinds of things, that life is muddy. It's an actual fact very murky, and you can be in love with this person and they push you through this. And Mamfundi in particular, Liena Milrato, you see that it's a lot going on there, but it's like you yearn for that person that you fell in love with that was once good to you. And it's not a straight line, and it's messy, and it's a lot of things, but there's life, and there's always more life, and you get up and you do it, oh, phenomenal. You guys, I enjoy these women. I was like, I was actually sad at the end when the little tiff came about, because yes, I expected them to butt heads here and there. I was hoping it wouldn't be anything as serious as this. But anyway, we move for now. Mamfundi was married to, I don't know what he was in Kaiser Chiefs, but he was something. I forget his name. Molefe. Is it somebody Molefe? I'll put it here. He passed away sometime. No, I probably won't, because I don't know if I'm editing this. I don't have space to come and resave it. I should just get my other device so I can Google some stuff while I'm talking to you guys. And she's the eldest lady in the group. She's twins with this man, and an older son who's now a senior goalkeeper for Kaiser Chiefs. They have built a good life together. They own 2 filling stations around Soweto, I think. A total and a something else, or both totals. I don't remember. She lost those when her husband died. They came in and decided that the franchisee agreement was with her husband and not her. And I actually think it was just some sinister deals behind her back. Somebody paid the right person. And she's like, when they looked at the paperwork, they decided that I'm nowhere on the paperwork. Yet these people would sometimes call me when they couldn't figure some stuff out as to where the monies is going, the auditors, like people would know to call me because I was in the back running things and they knew that. Now they're telling me I'm not on there. Somebody paid somebody. That's what it sounds like. That garage is probably so strategically placed because it's been there forever and a day. And the township has probably expanded around it for the last couple of decades, if you would like. And somebody was like, oh, that man is gone. My grandmother, by the way, whenever I say something relating to something, it's not me trying to center myself in somebody else's story. It's me trying to relate and also validate that person's experience. My mom tells of the story of how they had cows and livestock and things like that at home. And when my grandfather died, men swept in and bit by bit chipped away at her, stealing stuff from her because there was no man around to do that. And men are sinister like that. People whom you think have your back have been saying, if that man goes, I know who to bribe to get them to do this. And then before you know, that license is going to be mine. It just sounds like that's what happened. These women's experiences really tell of how not so fail-proof marriage is. The lie that there are protections, let me not say that, that's misleading, but that you will still be made to fight for things that people know these things are lawfully yours. People know that if it weren't for you, this person was never going to amass all these things. They simply did not have the discipline to do so, as is the case with most of the men that we see on this show, right? Like Mendoza would have squandered his wealth, if you ask me, because he was so young. If it wasn't for Mpo, who was there, who had the kids, who realized that, I gotta put this shit away for these kids, like, for me and him and these kids. And anyway, who else is on the cast? We have the late now forget it, and I forget her because she came later in the season, but the guy who played Busudlom, and I don't know why I'm forgetting his real name now. But we have his wife on there, his widow rather, on there. She comes in a little bit into the episode, into the season. And then there's four ladies. Mpho Chabalala, Lerato Singadi, Mamfundi, Melerato. Was it just them at the retreat? Yes. On the first 3 episodes, they actually aware at a retreat. They do all kinds of exercises, therapeutic exercises. Yo, Sana, I was so annoyed, bored, when they had that Gogo's containing person, fucking cloud chasing bitch come through there. I was like, oh my God. I skipped through some of those scenes, and then Lerato and I had the same feeling about her. She was saying she's a medium this time. That's one of her gifts. There's nothing authentic about this woman. At that point, I was disappointed with the show a little bit because I felt like they were making a mockery of these women's healing. And then, because you see the other people, they have the other experts. They've Dr. Kosi, whom I remember from 3 Talk, Nolene's 3 Talk. They have her on there, such really brilliant in how she's able to get to the thing. Just then you have a woman like that, and then one of the other people who comes in, you bring in that cloud chasing girl. Like, oh my God, but like I was so annoyed. But anyway, that was the only annoying thing. More than anything, I don't want to really talk about the blow by blow of what transpired more than I want to speak to the little nuggets. Melerato, the older Lerato, the one whose husband was a politician. She, for me, her story, it's so compelling. Her husband, her late husband, guys, robed their son into his infidelities and his many outside children. Had told his son, you can't tell your mom, put that burden on him to a point where he was drinking excessively, even told his dad, I'm struggling with this thing mentally. And the dad was just like, ah, I'll tell your mom. When I tell her, I'll tell her like when I'm ready or whatever. That's how much damage. At a point, like their relationship was so strained, he started fighting with his mom over things that didn't exist. When the dad had just passed away, he had moved out of the home. He was living by some woman where his dad used to frequent a lot. Some lady they're calling our sponsor, and his dad used to go to that tavern all the time, hang around with his side chicks and things of that nature. He went over to stay with that woman. This woman was putting nasty ideas in his head. These things happen when people feel emboldened to say certain things to your children and move a certain way when your spouse also moves a certain way. When your spouse is out there in the world talking shit about you, making like you're not so important, making like he's just stuck with you, it gives room for people to disrespect you, to talk crazy at your kids. People were trying to convince him that that's not his birth mother. He was even believing them. They were like, no, your dad came with you into the marriage. She just raised you. That's why this. And he was believing them because he was in such a dark place. His own father did that to him. But Lerato says in one of, they were playing Jenga. And they're like, what is something you haven't told your kids? And she says in the confessionals that at night when I go to the spirit realm, because she has a gift, when I go to the spirit realm, I don't tell my kids that when I visit their dad, he's the man I fell in love with. He's the version of him that I've always wanted and deserved. Like the man that I knew him to be. That's who I find when I visit him there. And you can tell she says that from a place of still yearning and still being that little girl who got, or that young woman who got married so young and loved her husband even through everything that he was putting her through. She really went through it. She's one of the ones that really went through it. When the ladies were playing Jenga away on the trip, I'll bounce back and forth because again, I'm not going in order. Lerato and Mpho broke down and they were having a very emotional moment. Mamfundi is the eldest of the girls and she's about in her 60s or 60 or whatever. Mamfundi was like, okay, let's just break this up quickly. Okay, let me pick the next block. And she explained in her confessional, everybody just thought she was being so dismissive and so rude. But she explained in her it broke my heart when she was doing it because I realized she's experiencing discomfort and vulnerability. And I looked at the fact that she's a much older woman and I thought of my own mother and the older women I know in my life. These hoes don't cry. These hoes were just raised in a time where being stoic was the order of the day and you don't cry and you don't break down and your kids don't see you cry and nobody sees your tears. And that to them, they don't know what to do with that. They just know how to go and go. And when you look at the type of marriage that she had no choice. She'd be on the floor crying every fucking day if that was the case. Who was going to feed her kids? It broke my heart to know that this woman is only going to learn how to have access to her emotions now. And even then, she needs to feel safe enough to access that part of her and sit in the discomfort of, I am releasing. I'm actually crying. It's okay. It broke my heart to see her have to be a person who doesn't know what to do with those kinds of emotions, even with other people. Luckily, Milerato set her aside later on and said, you know, when people are crying, you must let them. People need to have, it's natural, it's normal. And I felt her allow herself throughout the season to break down and cry, allow others to, and it was growth, it was gradual, but she got it. Like when Lerato sat her down, Lerato was more of a peer to her than the other ladies. I feel Lerato's delivery was very good. I'm glad she took her aside and I'm glad it was her in particular who noticed that it had to be done. She even did an apology to her. She went back to those young ladies and she was like, I made no disrespect by it. I was uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do with those emotions. My mom doesn't really cry. Not really. She'd be like, Marakere, Kasnola. What do you mean, girl? Yes, you can. Fucking crazy. But, oh my God. But, yo, like I said, Minato's growth, even with her kids, I enjoyed her daughter. I enjoyed the conversations with the daughter. I enjoyed her daughter. Her daughter is so in tune. Like, I don't know how to, she's on journey. She had a difficult time in her own life. She lets us know that when you learn that the idea you had of your parents' marriage isn't this thing that you thought it was all along, because your mom had done such a great job of shielding and protecting you kids, from your dad's really degenerate ways. And now you're an adult and you're having to contend with the reality of, oh, my dad's a piece of shit. And that's what I was saying in the other video. I was like, usually when your dad can pay for stuff, the other thing he's paying for is for you not to see, but you don't even look up to see if he's being a piece of shit right now, right? Because he's being such a great provider. She was about to enter into a marriage herself when, all of this stuff was happening with her dad. And it led her to feel like maybe marriage isn't the thing that I should be jumping into. I feel like a lot of us, when we see marriage modeled a certain way, we think we know what it's supposed to be. And I'm conflicted in whether or not I'm like, did she do her kids a disservice by shielding them from so much? At the same time, I'm like, where they're going to be too scarred, because your little brain also can't handle certain kind of traumas and seeing certain kinds of things. So she had to bear the brunt of it as the mom, Lerato. And guys, a lot happened. Couldn't get that happen. I don't even know where to touch. I don't even know where to go. I love how Umpa's raising her boys, or her kids rather. I love how one of her kids wants to go into music and the other one is a soccer guy. And we got to see interact more with the musician one and stuff. And the musician kid feels like the mom wants, like, I'm not Mendoza. Like, the kid is like, they want me to be Mendoza, but I'm not Mendoza. And I think Umpo is just saying, you have a leg up, you have a legacy that you can step on, and you don't need to start from the bottom up, and take the step. And I understand the kid wanting to make his own path, because you don't want people to say this was just handed to you. I also love how she updates him, like things that are happening with the foundation. She's doing a great job of keeping the brand Mendoza relevant, alive, giving it the icon status that it deserves. She's doing a great job around that, because a lot of these women are the genius behind the success that we got to see. They are how these men had anything to go home to, and because men will squander everything if you let them. They will, especially the guy, but I love that. Oh, Mamfundi, like literally my heart. Kuningi here to unpack, guys. Kuningi here to unpack, but I'm just gonna touch up. But I'm not done with Milrata, guys. I think I should have done it like that. I think I should have just been like, I'm gonna, in this video, do Lerato and Mpo, and then I'm gonna do Mamfundi, and you see what I'm saying? But these are just the stuff that stuck out to me, and I think you guys should go watch the show. But she goes to see Dr. Kosi, Lerato, older Lerato, not Lerato Singati. She goes to see Dr. Kosi, and she's like, I often wonder, and she's breaking down, and she's like, I wonder about my husband, if he perhaps stayed with me out of obligation, because his mother loved me and respected me and wanted once he married me, it was that. He's even tried to bring in another person when we were separated 1 year. I think she said in '05. And his mother was just like, no, not here. And they say that's the curse, right? If your mother-in-law just takes to you and adores you, that man is about to fall out of love with you. It's a warning that they give us all the time. But she says that and she's breaking down. She's like, because why was he with these other women? And one of them, he was with her very long term. Like they were 12-year-old. In the time that we were apart, he went to go and live with this woman. And, you know, is that where he really wanted to be? You know, what was really going on? Did he even want to be here by me? Then she says to her daughter, this cut me because, wow. She says to her daughter, I even developed body dysmorphia and eating disorders because I was like, maybe it's because I'm not this. And you look at a gorgeous, gorgeous woman, right? And somebody recently left a comment on one of my videos on the weight loss for male validation. I've gone through a phase where I was like very lonely, and the teachings of maybe it's because I'm so big, and if I would do something, I would get a suitable suitor, you know, I would get a somebody with substance to look at me. And to this day, I think I say to you guys all the time that I don't feel I don't look at my body and see a sexually viable body. Like I don't look at my body and think somebody ought to look at me and find me sexually anything, like enticing or I can't. Like I suffer from like a serious like an internalized fit phobia of sorts where it's difficult for me to understand why anybody would find me desirable, like my physical form. I think I'm brilliant in any other way, believe you me, and that's why I have the self-esteem I have. But physically, it gets in the way of me doing a lot of stuff, expressing myself in a lot of ways. It's a very difficult thing. And I noticed that it was even playing into who I would be attracted to. Because I don't find my large body attractive, I was gravitating towards very, very skinny men. Like that was a thing that I was doing because I just thought maybe it would be more compatible this way, because I don't find my body big. Men who are navigating the world and other big bodies aren't first picking for me either. It's a difficult thing to work through. And she's like, you know, and I come from a world where this doesn't exist. I can't go back and say I am counting calories and doing weird shit because I think if I stay smaller, he will like me. And some of it has to do with maybe looking at, and I'm not saying that's what she did, as a border chat this bit, looking at the type of person that maybe the person you're with has historically been drawn to, looking at his ex, looking at the person he's cheated on you with Derek Jackson's wife, Danae, who was like, she was watching the videos of him be with other women and feeling like maybe because, you know, I'm not as this and I don't look like them and I'm not as dark as they are and my body doesn't, you know, release the same kind of fluid because she's watching him like have dofted off with other women. And instead of saying I deserve better than like this man not only having sex with these women but recording it, she was sitting and making notes, like watching them do stuff and being like excreting. And she was thinking maybe it's because my vagina doesn't do that. Like it's literally, because the idea of starting over is daunting. You know, I'm working on I'm spending time with it because I've realized that I want to come at it with a different tone. But um, my approach to married women and why they stay in the situations they stay in, um, I'm working on my tone around that because they just have too much stock put in it, man. Lerato tells us about how she sacrificed her financial freedom, and this person essentially ended up with so much control. Hello, trad wives. Hello, who those of you who think it's cute, and then you end up with no mobility. Where are we saying Lerato must go? As people are saying, just get your kids and leave. What are we saying? Where are we saying she must go? I think my chat with these women and my anger, if you would like, always came from the lack of honesty. Stop acting like you are staying because that's just what you want to do, and be a little bit more transparent about the fact that, you know what, I've backed myself into a corner. Like, be the cautionary tale, right? Whisper to the young women, Oskaya, don't do it like that. Do it differently. I did it like this and it didn't work. Promise, who's always like, no woman leaves for cheating, right? Go talk to the women who've had disease brought to them as they were sitting at home, bakanyogela maswa, and what that did, not just to their physical, but their mental. Can you imagine? It's not that simple. I think the dishonesty is why the tone often comes across with like judgment, among other things, or like a tone of reprimanding, or tone of like, like, we're like, okay, the wives are going through it, because you all are often very dishonest, and in your dishonesty, you rope other women into these situations. Because from the outside looking in, these women probably look kept, look like their shit is on point. Is it Menzi? I think so. The guy who plays Buso. His wife, and a lot of them, including Mamfundi, a lot of them talk about how promiscuous their husbands were and how they knew and how they chose to ignore it and focus inward. Watching this reminded me so much. I'm really dry because I've been talking a lot. Num num. Watching this reminded me of the demeanor of a woman who married a man of means. They tend to have a similar feel about them, and that feel is often cold. They're good looking, cold women. And you wonder where it comes from. And a lot of the times, it often just looks like they're guarding and hoarding whatever wealth they think is here, and they have their eyes out. And I've dealt with women like this who, when you make friends with their kids, they start asking you questions in a tone of trying to figure out, do you also come from means? Do you have as much to lose? Constantly warning their sons about getting these fucking hussies pregnant. And I've always sat in judgment of them. I really have. And I'm now realizing that recluseness, that coldness is something you grow into when you're existing in an environment like these women, where over time you start to learn that, oh, my husband's cheating. Oh, everybody knows. Or people pass him girls. Oh, he's fucking some of you. Or some of you, let's say your daughters here. Your world becomes small, and your world becomes you and your kids. And in the case of Lerato, it couldn't even be her kids. Like, her son was being complicit in some of this behavior to humiliate and put the wool over her eye, if you would like. Your world becomes small because you don't know who you can trust, right? You're looking over your shoulder all the time. Are you also you think people know more than you do, because obviously when he's out there, he's talking his shit, right? Like, you end up with a very small world, very mistrusting, because the person whom you were supposed to have the most trust with broke that trust, broke it beyond, baby, it's Humpty Dumpty, this trust, okay? We can't piece this shit back together. It's scrambled eggs. Like, we can't, it's over. Over fucking dovers. Like, it's done. And they all have it. All of them. And you often think that, oh my God, she's so stuck up. Like, that's how, this show was really like to me, oh, I see how this happens. I see. We could all easily grow into this kind of woman. It's not it's not. It's not that strange that it happens. Mamfundi, We learned that her husband was the same way. You know, Mamfundi is a woman of a particular age, and I think other people may feel what they feel about her, but I feel like her just being a woman of a particular age explains a lot of how she comes across. And if you have a person of that age around you, you would understand and you would approach her with a bit more empathy and a bit more compassion. It just is what it is. She's having a difficult time accepting that one of her she has twin girls. One of her twins is pregnant, and it's breaking her heart because she keeps saying, "Oh, the kids are out of wedlock, or the kid is going to be out of wedlock." And she entered her marriage without kids, and she didn't bring any bastards into the marriage. And when you first hear it, she has a terrible breakdown. When I tell you, crying over the fact that her daughter is having a child out of wedlock, it you would it's a lot is going on here with her, because it's like she thinks she taught them right and wrong, or she knows she has. And she's like, "Oh, I told you." First of all, her daughter hid the pregnancy for 7 months. And then she learns about it. She's like, "Oh, wow. Like, what is this? I never told you to do this," right? First of all, that teaching for her is for her daughter's protection. If her daughter has this kid and she has to bring the kid into a marriage, to her, that means they'll mistreat her. So as long as you don't bring any bastards, your chances, first of all, of getting a good partner are higher, but also of being treated better in that marriage for not having brought in outside kids. Those chances are also higher. Negating that she did all of that, she ticked all the boxes, and that's not the treatment she's getting. It's not registering with her because the teachings are locked in. You know, she had her kids within that union and they still question those kids' paternities. Can you believe that? They question her love of the husband. They question if the kids belong to the husband. These are the rakadis, these are the sisters to her late husband. She's been locked out of her family home, the home that they built in Makaya and stuff. She's been locked out of that home because they're saying that's their brother's home. Careful. Pay attention to me now. Careful the underachiever sibling. Careful the underachiever sister. And I'm not saying don't be careful of the brother, but careful. And she finally says it to the end. He was the cash cow of the family. He was the one who would take care of the relatives. So his underachieving sisters were leeching off of him, and she came into the family. She's trying to preserve the wealth for her own kids. Mind you, she's helping to create said wealth, right? Why wouldn't she feel entitled to some of it, if not all of it? That's their money. They're making it together. They've locked this woman out of her marital home, like the house. They've locked out of the house. They're like, that's our brother's stuff. Your brother's things belong to his wife and his kids. Luckily, Mpho Chabalala says that she hasn't experienced a lot of this from her in-laws. In fact, she gets a lot of support from her mother-in-law. It's usually somebody on the fringes there trying to do some drama, but it's never that serious. But this one is really seeing it. Her and Lerato Singadi stuff have played out in the social media down from when they were like, where I remember watching Jabba's burial, and I remember her walking. I remember seeing Casper Nyovest and other people walking to the grave, and I think Mulabachela Magu or whatever. She was walking with everybody else like she's part of the public. I didn't understand why she didn't have like a seed. This woman says like she didn't. This is not WHP's widow. She says that she didn't even see this man's body. Nothing. They just took his body, the family, and ran with it. You will build a person and you will build with a person. And the family will even expect you or this person, the moki of the year, umutushe in Menzi's situation. The wife was there helping him go to the loo and bathe him. I think he had like a stroke or something. All of that. Do all of that. They actually, now they know you're the wife. When you don't, when it's time, if he can't walk, they will remember he's a wife that did for sickness and better. And the moment, the moment you put the wreath, the moment that's done, they now wanna act ditzy. All of them. They now wanna act dense as fuck and start saying things like, he's my brother. I can't imagine wanting to take anything from my niece and nephew that their dad left them. I cannot fathom doing that shit. But oh, guys, Kuningi, I can't get into it right now. I cannot. But Mamfuni eventually looks like she's coming around to her being a grand, but she's doing it existing in disappointment. And I wish she could let go, because she got no protections from following the letter to the T. It did her no service, because if they want to treat you like shit, they'll treat you like shit. But again, she's a woman of a particular age. They want you to go to school and then find a good man and get married. They saw it didn't work out for them, but they can't divorce themselves from the idea that perhaps it'll pan out differently for you. And there's no woman, even the woman who's been through what she's been through, who's wishing for her daughters to have the kind of marriage she has. We live in hope that, oh, you can redefine it for yourself. You can make marriage the thing that you want it to be. It's not true. It is not true. It's just got too much fucked into it. Somebody has peed in that pool. Several somebodies have peed in. It's a swamp. It's a swore. It's a cesspool. Somebody's peeing in the pool right now. As we're sitting here, somebody's taking a shit in the pool. Right now. Even like a Friday. It's Friday evening. Everybody's shitting in the pool. That is marriage. Truly. But guys, she cried. But even when she heard that she was a grandma, when they called her and told her that her daughter had given birth, because she had a court date to try to get access to her marital home. And when she got there, they had to break into the house to see what was going on. But some rituals, there was a shrine of sorts there, but some stuff to block them. And then they came. The Rahadis Baba the sisters to the late husband, they came Kadigaoni to do a back and forth with her, saying this is their brother's house. That's then his kid's house. Careful the underachiever who tries to lay claim to shit that they know is not theirs. Careful. Lerato Singadi also had the same problem. She was bonded and very close to the Rahadi of her kids, all to find out that this bitch was khanakhaning on behind her back, knowing all the fucking kids and knowing all. Your in-laws are not your family. And sometimes you get to a family where the women in that family are not about this shit. The women in that family will always put you and your kids first, because they are women and they have in-laws as well. And they know what that game is, and they don't want to put another woman through that. And I salute those women, right? Let's not throw everybody out with the bathwater. But oftentimes, if we are dependent on this person in the family, or this is the guy, and we all look at him like that, that person often does not like to hear the word no, often does not like to be reprimanded, does not like to be told they're doing wrong. They will cast you out, and the entire family will treat you like a pariah because they're all leeching off of him. And I suspect that's what may have happened here, right? And they saw an opportunity in his death to possibly get something through the other children, the outside kids, maybe if we help them get something, but I don't want to tell us something, it's sad, and a lot happened. To the end there, Mamfundi has some text messages that she found in her husband's phone, as well as the name Mpho Chabalala. This is the late Duduzi Mendoza's ex Tingaki. I mean, sorry, widow. She found text messages that were unsettling. I personally feel like the women are gaslighting Mamfundi. They would not put up with this, and she is very right. Melerato is being a hypocrite. You would not respond kind if you found a message on your husband's phone of a woman saying, "Hey, love." How are you guys trying to gaslight this woman? Out of she's not overreacting, and I don't even think that the other lady was wrong to go back and tell Lerato. I mean, and tell Umpo, because Umpo is the one that brought her into the group. I don't go watch the show. You'll understand what I'm saying about for context. But the show is a good watch. It's a good binge. So they 10 episodes, and the 10th was the final. I don't know if they're gonna have a reunion, but I've been talking to you guys for 15. I don't know. I could talk. Yo, apparently I can't get son. But anyway, mwah, mwah. Bye.